What's going on, everybody? We are back with our team reviews, and we are on to the Detroit Lions. Dad, quick question, fill in the blank. The Lions season ends in
winning the NFC North and winning at least one round of the playoffs. And whether that's a divisional, I don't know if they'll have one of the better records in the NFC, so they'll probably have to play a wild card game. They'll win that, and they'll get to the divisional round, and from there, you never know what's going to happen. I think the Lions haven't won the division in an eternity. I don't even know the last time. So
I was just looking that up, actually, trying to find it. They might not have. So I was trying to find when's the last time they won the division. I don't even know if they've won the NFC North, technically.
I don't think they've won the NFC North.
Because they were part of the NFC Central.
Yeah.
And it looks like 1993 was the last time.
93?
93, yeah.
Yeah. That was the last time. Well, that was the one in my lifetime. I'm 64 years old. They won one playoff game, and it was in, I think it was 1992. With Barry Sanders. They beat up on the Cowboys pretty good in a playoff game, but they had a pretty good offense and stuff like that. But then they lost in the NFC Championship game to the Redskins, who won the Super Bowl. So
yeah. Well, we were talking about this earlier this week. This is at least since I've ever been watching football for the last 20 years. This is the most hyped the Lions have ever been, and in my football lifetime. So a lot of people are hyping them up, and for good reason. For very good reason. They have talent there. They have a pretty solid coaching staff. So if they can put it all together, they could, like you said, it's kind of theirs for the taking, the division. We're going to get into it. I'm showing the depth chart here. Again, we're kind of going over from a redraft point of view. We'll throw in real football stuff. We'll throw in dynasty stuff here and there, but mostly just a redraft. We approach things from a half PPR point of view, but of course, you can apply PPR, standard, whatever kind of league you run. And we're starting off with the quarterback position, the guy that makes it all go, Jared Goff. Jared Goff, former number one overall pick, obviously spent time with the Rams, took him to the Super Bowl, and Jared Goff had maybe his second best season of his career last year with the Lions, almost 4,500 yards passing, 29 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions, which is really good. Good numbers for Jared Goff. Very good numbers. The Lions.
He has a streak going on the number of passes. I can't remember if it's 300 and some or 400 and some straight passes without an interception. So I can't remember. But
it's 324.
Yeah, keep going about Goff.
324 for that streak.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I was just saying, he's the guy that makes it all go. And the Lions at one point, 6-7 weeks in, I think they had like the number one offense in the league. Then they got shut out by the Patriots, I think. But they were, I'm pretty sure, a top 5-7 offense last year. Goff was QB 10, averaged 17.1 points a game. That's where he finished fantasy wise. So he played every game, and he got you, just over 17 points a game. Dad, I guess we'll start just talking about Goff and where do you feel? Do you feel comfortable as him as your QB1? Do you want him more as maybe your QB2, or how are you approaching Goff this year in fantasy?
I would look at him kind of like right there at about the Dak Prescott level, kind of comparison, the 10-12 type stuff. And, you know, I mean, he's not. What makes Jared Goff go is, and this was the same thing when he was with the Rams, and this is with any quarterback, of course, a good offensive line, which Detroit checks that boxes. They have one of the better offensive lines in the NFL, and they have a legitimate running game, you know, and we'll talk about the running backs next. So they have all those things, and that's what Jared Goff can operate off of, you know, play action passes, and he's not getting his ass kicked every game, you know, getting sacked and eating his lunch and stuff like that. So that's, you give the guy time, and now you know, running game, offensive line, it's got pretty good receivers right now, and we'll talk about that. So that's what makes Jared Goff go. Is he going to carry the team and put it on his back by himself? Yeah, I don't know. He's part of the team. So
yeah,
that's the way I look at Jared Goff.
Brian, welcome back. We're talking about Jared Goff here, and I just asked Dad, would you feel comfortable if you ended your draft and Jared Goff is your QB1 for your team?
The only way that I'm doing that is if I have Anthony Richardson or even possibly maybe like Deshaun Watson or something like that, like someone that we're a little bit more skeptical on, like if they can be the number one. Like I think he's like he's great in super flex or 2 QB formats. Not in one team, I'm not quite there yet. Like I'm not taking him as my only guy, but definitely a solid backup to whatever else you're thinking could happen.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You know, he doesn't have a whole lot of upside. You kind of know what you're going to get. Again, he does nothing on the ground, so those type of quarterbacks, you're going to need. You really need like 33 plus touchdowns and 4,500 plus yards, and he almost got there last year. We talked about it, almost 4,500 yards, 29 touchdowns. So if he can have a better touchdown year, I think I remember. Yeah, it was Goff where he had like, it was something crazy, like 8 touchdowns where they were tackled at like the 1 yard line.
Yeah, like, he lost a lot of stuff on the goal line.
And that's why
Jameson.
That's why
Jamal Williams. Yeah.
Yeah, Jamal Williams had 17 touchdowns, so
yeah,
all
like
he had to do was fall forward for a yard, and
like 6 of those 8 or whatever it was like 80% of them turned into Jamal Williams touchdowns. So, yeah, I mean, if you add those in, then he has obviously a great year, you know. So it's definitely possible. It's there for him. I don't feel terrible with him as my QB1. You know, but if you play in a 12-team league, you could probably get someone slightly better with a little bit more upside. So,
yeah,
but I like the idea of pairing him.
He's definitely like a perfectly fine like streamer. You know, like you can get away with him for sure. Like,
yeah, and I like the idea of pairing him with like an Anthony Richardson. But you do have to take him. He's going in, again, this is a lot of best ball stuff, but he is going in like the 10th round. So it's not like, it's still decent draft capital for him. You know, personally, I don't like to start looking at quarterback till like round 8. So
as QB what though? As in round 10 as 15. QB what? 15? Okay.
15, yeah.
So is he before Rodgers? Is he before Cousins?
Yeah, right before Rodgers. So it's Cousins, Geno, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Anthony Richardson. So yeah, he's like right before Rodgers and Wilson, right after Geno, Daniel Jones. So yeah, I mean, you could wait and maybe you don't have to take him. Again, if this is a lot of best ball, like, you know, there's going to be a lot more people taking multiple quarterbacks in a best ball league. So maybe you can get Goff in like round 12 or something like that.
Yeah, I would think
which is
QB. Yeah, QB 15 comes off a little bit later, I would assume, but yeah, maybe not. I don't know. It kind of depends. Yeah, like you're kind of saying, like family leagues are different than best ball and all that other shit.
Yeah.
So
I mean, in our league that we run, there's a lot of the teams that will take 2 quarterbacks, in the first 8 picks or something. So
right.
you just got to know your league. But yeah, Goff is a solid player for sure. Makes it all go, and he can support multiple fantasy options. We'll move on to the running back position. We got 2 relevant guys here. They brought in David Montgomery to kind of, everyone's saying to kind of replace Jamal Williams. They gave him a good amount of money, I think second most for a running back this offseason. And then they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs as a top 12, 13 pick in this last draft, which was surprising to people, but, obviously he's a good player. So we have Jahmyr Gibbs, Dad, and David Montgomery. Which one do you prefer in terms of, where you have to draft them? So right now you have to draft Gibbs. It looks like in the 4th round. And you have to draft, you can get Montgomery, it looks like in the 8th round. Which do you prefer?
Well, let me talk about David Montgomery first. David Montgomery had 4 years with the Bears, and every year he was over 200 carries. Only 1 year was he 1,000-yard rusher. I mean, he wasn't spectacular. He was pretty steady, though, for 4 years. He played most of the games. He catches passes out of the backfield. 1 year he caught 54 passes. And, if I can get David Montgomery in the 8th round, I'm happy. And what do I expect out of him this year? I like 850 yards and 8 touchdowns, catch 30 passes. So, if that's to your liking, maybe that's your RB2 on your fantasy team. But I do like the steadiness, because as a Lions fan, I definitely wanted the Lions to re-sign Jamal Williams. And when they didn't and they jumped on David Montgomery, I was like, shit. And then I was like, oh, well, that's not so bad. Okay, that's good. So I think they improve themselves. Gibbs, boy, everybody's expecting explosive, type stuff with them, and that could happen. I expect 650 yards and maybe 50 receptions from him. So we'll have to see. If the guy is special on the football field, which everybody's expecting that he is. He played 1 year at Alabama and was kind of lit it up. He was Stroud's there. Bryce Young, right? Yeah, he was Bryce Young's favorite target at Alabama. So 4th round, might be kind of pushing it.
Yeah. I will say Gibbs, if you're taking him there, you're expecting more than 50 catches, I would assume. Brian, I'll kind of ask you the same question. I popped you on mute, so you have to unmute yourself just because there was a little background noise. But Gibbs, where he's going, David Montgomery, where he's going, I got you unmuted. Who do you prefer?
Yeah. Sorry, I think it's probably my fan that's giving the background noise. I'll cut that off right now.
You're good.
Yeah, basically, I think Montgomery's the easier pick because he's 5 rounds later, and we don't know who's going to be the leader in the backfield. I mean, we've seen Montgomery catch the ball, like Dad said. Obviously, Detroit's totally revamping their whole running game by getting rid of Swift and Jamal Williams. So it's kind of hard to say oh, this guy is Jamal Williams and this guy is DeAndre Swift kind of a thing, because they're bringing different things to the table. So I think it's easier, just to take the value on Montgomery 5 rounds later and I mean, like one thing that's like huge about like we didn't actually, or maybe it was said about the Lions passing game in general, like before I jump back on, but like they have Amon-Ra St. Brown and basically no one else, right? With this suspension on Williams and everything. So it's kind of like, yeah, there's a lot of excitement for the two rookies and stuff, and like how many passes you're going to catch and everything. And it's like, I don't know if that's necessarily what's going to happen. I feel like the Lions, Dad, you kind of said like their running game is very strong. And I think they're going to establish that and not put it on the back of Jared Goff, kind of like what you said also, Dad. Like, but I think that kind of means like running through the air a little bit with Montgomery and Gibbs. Like maybe there's going to be a lot of them both on the field at the same time.
And when we get to the wide receivers, I'll highlight some of the other guys. I know it sounds Amon-Ra St. Brown is, the only game in town. We're waiting for Jameson Williams. There's more to the Lions passing game, but
right. This is more like
going.
fantasy wise, kind of like,
yeah.
So like they might be like more like similar to the Chiefs, where it's like, okay, like they have basically one guy you definitely know you're starting, and then a lot of other sort of like flex / RB2 wide receiver 3 guys kind of a thing, like I just don't know like where they're all going to fit in. I mean, obviously no one knows like where some of these other guys are going to fit in. So, I mean, I think taking a shot on Montgomery in the 8th round is great. Gibbs, like you better be strong in your convictions, and you could be right.
Yeah, and like I mentioned at the beginning, we do, we play more half PPR and we approach it that way. But obviously, Gibbs is a lot more valuable in a PPR league. But he is going to have to get those 60 plus catches. I don't think he's going to get more than 150 carries. I really don't. Maybe slightly more, but it's not going to be much more. What's always interesting though, and I've mentioned this a few times on some videos, I think a lot of people are surprised by this. DeAndre Swift was the RB22 last year, and he averaged the same amount of points as Najee Harris, as Leonard Fournette, so he missed 3 games. If he played the whole season, he would have been a top 15 running back, essentially. And I think people that blows people's minds because he seems like he was such a huge disappointment from where he drafted him. So my point is they can support 2 running backs. They did it last year, kind of. And I think, if you assume Gibbs plays all year, I think you can have potentially 2 top 15 guys on this offense because they're going to support a lot.
They're not supporting anyone being drafted in the 3rd or 4th round, though, like at running back.
I mean, Jamal Williams was RB8.
Yeah, but he wasn't drafted like maybe 15th round last year or waiver pickup or something.
No, you're right. I mean, if we look at it so Gibbs is going RB14. And so, again, DeAndre Swift, if he does DeAndre Swift last year in a half PPR league, he finishes right around RB14 if he's healthy all year. In terms of the average. So
that's very doable, and those are good points, yeah. So, and then
obviously every year is different. The points are different. Where you fit it, but just assuming what similar things happened last year, where you average basically 12 points a game, is going to put you at an RB15, and that's kind of where he's being drafted. I know it's high up in the 3rd round, but. 4th round, sorry. I think I said 3rd, but it's actually 4th round. So I don't know. It's interesting. It is. I like the Montgomery value more, just because I think he's a good running back. He played behind a shitty offensive line his whole career with the Chicago Bears. He was always right there of getting contacted in the backfield, at least yards before contact in the league, and he's just a solid running back. And he's shown he's put up a top 5 RB season as well in 2020. So I think people are sleeping on Montgomery a little bit on this, potentially the best offensive line in the league. So
but and honestly, if he is used as those between the 20s type of guy, if he's getting most of that work and he's getting some pass catching stuff, and then you throw a little bit of goal line in there, like it's like, yeah, no, like definitely, like you said, offensive line, awesome. If we're expecting this offense to move, not necessarily like with Jared Goff as like the stud, it's kind of like, well, yeah, look at these running backs, like they're gonna help for sure.
You're just seeing who he's going around. Like he's going right around James Cook, AJ Dillon, Alvin Kamara with the potential suspension coming, like Antonio Gibson. Like give me Montgomery all day out of those guys. Like
Definitely.
he could be the best. He could be the number one running back on this team, like very easily. Like it's not like this. Wow, that would be a shock,
Yeah,
so,
I'd probably take Kamara over him just because like history and everything.
What if he's suspended 4 games? Like that's a quarter of your fantasy season.
Well, so. I'm just talking about like if we're drafting right now, right this second, like that's kind of Kamara missing time is kind of baked into his ADP right now, right? Like, or else he wouldn't be going that far down. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely close. I mean, you can definitely like make the case for the other guys too, but yeah, no, I like the Montgomery pick.
Yeah, but we will move on to the receivers, and we'll start with the stud Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's probably not too much to talk about him. I mean, he's good. Like, what else are we gonna say? He's a second rounder now, so gone are the days where you could get him cheaply, like last year, essentially. And
I think his rookie year, I got him off waivers after I seen him play.
Yeah.
So, because no one was.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if he was starting right off the get-go. The Lions didn't have a receiver core.
No, it was like the last 6 games. It's like where he like just lit it up.
Yeah, but I mean, at the beginning of the year in September, no one. I mean, a 4th round draft pick. So, but anyway, he's moved up. He's moved up. He's a second rounder. Everybody knows who he is. 90 to 100 catches. So,
he was a late pick for the Lions too, wasn't he? Like, wasn't he
fourth
like
rounder? Fourth rounder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Played at USC. So.
Okay.
Just looking at his rookie year, I mean, he did have good games. He had a 6 for 70, 7 for 75, weeks 4 and 5. So, and he was playing. It just, he really exploded the last 6 weeks. But I mean, again, not much to say here. Honestly, it's like the guy's good. He's better in PPR, obviously, and with Jameson Williams, who we'll get to in a second, not going to be there for the first 6 weeks. Like, I think it's even more into Amon-Ra St. Brown. So, like, I have no problem.
Sorry, he's a young Keenan Allen.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the catches and everything. The only thing is, he doesn't score a whole lot of touchdowns, but he gets so many catches where it kind of doesn't matter. And so I kind of expect more of the same, 100 catches, 1,100 yards, and, 6-7 touchdowns. So I have no problem taking him where he's going. He's going right around Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle. Like, if you want to make an argument for St. Brown and PPR over those guys, like, fine. I'd probably still take Devontae Adams, but I don't know if there's anything you guys want to say really about St. Brown.
I would take Adams over him. And he's after Diggs then?
Yeah, he's after Diggs. He's wide receiver 9. So AJ Brown, Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, and Devontae Smith. So I think that's fine right where he is, I really do.
Yeah, I would definitely take Adams over him.
Mm-hmm.
I'd take the shot on Wilson maybe. But not a lot of arguing. It's kind of personal opinion at that point. Honestly, I'd rather have Olave. Ooh, hot take.
Over St. Brown?
Later. I think so. I think I'd rather have Olave. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, all those guys are really good. I mean, it's just arguing. There's not there's not much of an argument, I guess. Like, yeah, if you want to take Olave, that's fine. If you believe in Garrett Wilson, like, that's fine. but no one's going to argue like, what, you took St. Brown in the second round? Like, no one's going to say anything, really.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's kind of where he deserves to go. Dad, do you want to say anything on Amon-Ra?
Nothing really to say. I mean, everybody should know by now.
Yeah, indeed. Jameson Williams is on here as the wide receiver too. Obviously, he's missing 6 weeks. I'm basically out on Jameson in terms of redraft because the earliest you can start him is week 8 because he misses 6 weeks. You have to see him do something in week 7, so he needs to hit week 7, and then you start on week 8, and then the Lions have a bye week 9. So essentially, the first 9 weeks, you are getting 1 week out of Jameson Williams at best. Probably not starting him until week 10, and that's very far into the fantasy season. And he has a leg injury, and he might miss practices, right? So it's unfortunate. I think he's really good, but I mean, what can we say about Jameson Williams? Like,
yeah, these are setbacks. It was kind of, when we heard what he did, like make a bet in the Detroit Lions facility or something like that, and it's like, it's kind of stupid. I mean, that's part of. This guy was drafted number 12, though. I mean, and now, unfortunately, are we going to waste 2 years already?
Yeah.
Last year he played 6 games, and he caught 1 pass. So he definitely was not involved with the offense last year, which makes sense because he didn't start playing until November. And
I think it's kind of funny because like the Lions offense kind of woke up the second half of the year last year, and he wasn't that involved. Like obviously like he missed all of camp and basically everything. Like you can't just jump in at week 11 or whatever as a rookie and expect to get it, but it's still kind of like, yeah, what have you done for me lately kind of a thing. And like, I mean, we're still kind of, he's being drafted on like where his talent and potential could be, but I mean, Mike, give us some names of guys that are being drafted around him.
Wide receivers.
Yeah, I'll tell you who I'd rather have.
I mean, Quinton Johnston.
What's that?
Quinton Johnston, Elijah Moore, Michael Thomas, Juju Smith-Schuster, Rashad Bateman, Brandon Cooks. Like, I mean, you're taking all these guys over him.
Yeah, I would definitely take everyone except for maybe Quinton Johnston.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like I wouldn't take him over him, but it's just kind of like all the other guys seem a little bit more obvious. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean again,
we chance to play. So
we just laid it out. At best, you're starting him once in the first 9 weeks. Like at best, like, and then you have 5 more weeks in your fantasy season. Like, I don't know. It's just easy. I'm easily taking Quinton Johnston because over him. I'm not saying I would take Quinton Johnston there necessarily, but if it came down to those two, it's like no brainer to me to take Johnston.
Yeah.
Again, like we haven't seen anything from Jameson. Like I know he was drafted last year, and we knew it was kind of a wash year in terms of like fantasy. But it would have been nice to see something, like one game where it's just like, yeah, that's Jameson Williams. Like, looking forward to it. We didn't see, like Dad said, he had 1 catch for 40 yards, right? Like, I know he had a big touchdown catch that was called back on a penalty as well. But
yeah,
like we didn't see anything, and I don't know.
Yeah. Next, which is nobody.
Well, Dad, you mentioned, there's a few guys here: Marvin Jones Jr., Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, all guys that we know. Denzel Mims was a high draft pick by the Jets, who's now on the Lions. Is there someone in this group you think can step up as the number 2 guy?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if they can be fantasy relevant. That's the problem. Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond have been there a few years. So, and they have okay numbers, I'm not talking about, jump out of the gym type numbers or anything like that. Khalif Raymond has some kind of advanced stat, like he was like the second most open person on passes thrown to him in the NFL. But,
because he had 3 passes thrown to him.
No, that's not true, because he here, I'll tell you right now, he had 47 receptions and 0 touchdowns. So, see, that's what makes him irrelevant. So, but he's played in Detroit for a few years. But again, I'm being honest. Marvin Jones, nice guy, okay receiver. Khalif Raymond, same thing. Josh Reynolds, Denzel Mims, we don't know. High draft pick, couldn't make it with the Jets. So, yeah, you take one. If we're just talking, they're part of a. So when we're talking fantasy football, but they're part of the team and they're important to the team. So they are irrelevant for fantasy football, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. If you're going to take one of those guys, it better be with your very last pick. And you better be hoping, you're not holding on to them, after 3 weeks, hoping Marvin Jones or Khalif Raymond hit, you can take them with your very last pick or something. In a redraft league, Jameson Williams, take them with your third to last pick in a best ball right now. But anyways, I'm not drafting any of those guys.
Yeah, you don't. I was just looking at it now. You don't have to. I think Marvin Jones is the highest, and he's going 290th, which is round 24. So that basically means these are waiver wire guys. I will say, I do think one of them could be fantasy relevant. If we do think the Lions offense is going to be really good, and Jahmyr Gibbs is not that guy that we thought, but they're waiver wire guys. They're waiver wire after week 2.
That's why, definitely the very last pick. If you want to fucking hold on to those guys to see if either one of them is the favorite or something to be the wide receiver too there. But I don't know.
It's just as we go through this, it's really making me like Jahmyr Gibbs more and more as shit, he could be the second most targeted player on this team, because I don't expect much out of the tight ends. I mean, I know Sam Laporta was a high draft pick and everyone's talking about how wonderful he is, but the fact is he's a tight end and he's a rookie. So the chances of him really being fantasy relevant his first year are very, very slim. But I'm fine with taking a shot on Laporta as your second tight end, and just to kind of see what happens and see if maybe he is that good. Dad, do you agree with that? Sam Laporta, as maybe a second guy?
His OTA and his camp reports so far are really good. So, is he going to be, one of the main weapons? I heard somebody on XM radio talk about how hard it is to come in as a rookie tight end. That you're part of the run game, you're blocking, you're part of the passing game. He said it's just pretty overwhelming. It was Luke Schoonmaker, by the way, for Denver. I heard him. He just said there's a lot there, to learn, and a second tight end. Yeah, absolutely. Laporta.
Oh.
Did we lose the host?
I think we did for a little
second
there. He muted himself.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just asking Brian, do you agree? Do you want Laporta maybe as a second guy? Or
I mean, honestly, tight end 10 is such a low bar. If you're drafting anyone, I feel past, Hawkinson, Pitts, Goddard kind of a thing, you're taking 2 anyways. I don't know. I mean, I like Laporta. Like sure, I like him better in Dynasty and Best Ball than redraft, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's room for him. I think he's a perfectly fine, especially if you're going to take 2 tight ends. Like, what if he's the second guy after Monroe St. Brown in terms of targets on the Lions? That means he's getting 7, 8, 9 targets. So there you go.
Yeah, I think that's what makes him intriguing is we expect this offense to be really good, and we don't really know who's the second target on this team. That's what makes him slightly intriguing. So, yeah, I mean, take a shot on him and see what happens. If he keeps getting hyped up in the offseason, if he flashes in the preseason, then definitely.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, fade him. I mean, I've definitely I've done the like if that happens, if he starts getting like hype and he starts getting pushed up or anything
well, he
like
already
that,
is.
yeah. I mean, I did the Hawkinson thing before, and it's like, oh, like he's the obvious, like he's the only other guy there and stuff like that, and like it just didn't quite work out that way, Like I don't know, I wouldn't invest too much. I mean, like, yeah, double-digit round, sure, take him.
Yeah, and you don't have to. I mean, he's picked 206 right now, so
There you go.
So, but he is getting the hype. I think I saw he's already like a top 8 or something dynasty tight end, which is kind of crazy. But
Yeah, because he's young.
yeah, in high draft capital. But no one else beyond that that's going to be fantasy relevant, as of now. So we'll kind of finish it up there with the Lions. Dad, obviously, you think a playoff team. I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't know if they win the division. I think they make the playoffs. Minnesota's still there, but I hope they do. I hope they do well for
I'll
your
split
sake.
the difference. I'll say they win the division and lose the first playoff game.
Yeah, we need to get Dad his second playoff win in what 60 something years.
64.5 years.
Yeah. Well, but we'll finish up there, and we're going to move along with our next team, the Green Bay Packers. As always, like this video and subscribe, and